Walker or Masechet Kiddushin Daf Ayin Daled Munal 74a1 says the Gemara, right? V'ne'eman dayan lomar. A dayan is believed to say lazeh zikiti v'lazeh chiyavti. So we're 3 lines down, last word where it says a dayan is believed to say I put this one that he's zechut in the din, zakai badin, and this one's chayav badin. But when one of these words only when they're still in front of him. And therefore, he has to give the psak. But if they're not in front of him, he's not believed anymore, right? Which because now everything is talui b'zikaron in his memory, so now he's not believed anymore. Says the Gemara, he says, okay, fine, but let's see who is the shtar zechut. Meaning, when you come out of a din, there's like a psak din. This is so. Just check what it is. Check the report. Answers the Gemara, it was torn. So for we don't know who actually had it. Meaning, since it was torn, we don't have it. So we're not sure. Yeah? So says the Gemara, just judge them again. Answers the Gemara, no. It was a deen that they had to be machriya lebo. So for since it's not a deen barur that they're able to do it. If it was a deen barur, judge them again, and that's it, to give the psak. But this is something that was like, according to their judgments, and so it wasn't. So if it's not exact, that has to. So now you can't do it again, because maybe if you're going to do it again, you might do the exact opposite of what you did beforehand, because it all depends. So therefore, we can't do that. So Aman of Nachman says, Shlosha ne'emanim al-bechor. There are 3 people that are going to be believed on a bechor. Eluhen. These are the 3 people. Chaya, avi ve'imo. The midwife, the father, and the mother. Chaya is only believed the lealtar immediately, as we already said above. Imo. Right, that was yesterday's daf, yeah? Which is today's daf, sorry. Right, Imo is called Shiva. Right, the mother, she's believed for 7 days. The first 7 days, the mother's believed to say, this is a Bechor. Okay? Aviv Leolam. The father is always believed that this is a Bechor. Right? He says the first 7 days, the father Kilu still didn't see him enough because he's always under the mother until he does a Brit Milah. Right? But from then onwards, Kilu, then it's the obligation of the father, like Yakir, and therefore now he has an obligation. Because the times we learned in the Braita, Yakir. What does it mean, right? Pi ben bechor Yakir. What is Yakir? He says Yakirenu lacherim. He has to be makiroto to other people. And that's Mikanam Rav Yudah. That's why Rav Yudah comes and he says, and Ne'eman Adam Lomar, Zebeni Bechor, Ushem Shene'eman Zebeni Bechor, Chach Ne'eman, so he's believed to say, this Zebeni Busha ve'Chulutza, Chachamrim Urim Ne'eman. So he said, no. That means like this. To say that he's a Bechor, he's always believed. And that's Yakir. But are you going to be believed to say that the person can come and say this is a ben grusha v'chalutza? Meaning he's being posel his children. He's a kohen, and now he's telling everybody this is a ben grusha v'chalutza. So according to the first shita, he's believed, right? That means he's believed to make his son into a halal. According to Chachamim, he's not believed to come and to be posel his child. Okay.
What's the point of knowing who's the bechor? It's just the Pishtain?
Not only Pishtain, there's a lot of halachot.
Huh?
There's a lot of halachot. It's not only just speech time, but there's many things also.
Like?
Kavod, burying, this, that, there's a lot of things.
Burying?
Who buries the father? I'm saying it's all, the Bechor is always the one that's always first in everything. They have an obligation in Torah lechabed et ha'ach ha'bechor. Yerusha is kafur b'shnayim. Right, that is the thing. But there's other things as well. Right? There's many. This is the Bechor. There's something completely different. For example, certain decisions. Right? There could be 5 brothers. The Bechor many times will make certain decisions because he's a Bechor. Right? And they have to respect it. Okay? Abba Shaul haya koreh l'shtuki beduki. You know that Abba Shaul gave him a different name. I think it's very hard over there. Right? He says, he used to call it a shtuki abduki. Yeah. Turn around. So he says, what does that mean? My beduki. What does it mean, beduki? He says, Ilema, if you're going to tell me now, if you're going to tell me that, what is beduki? Beduki means we're going to check the mother. And she's going to say that I got married, I went and I had relations with a kosher person. And she's going to be believed. Keman, who does that go like? Like a Murumiel. Tanina Chadazim, we already learned it once. The time we learned it in Mishnah. Imagine you have a pnuya that she's pregnant. You know what a pnuya means? A woman that she was never married. And she's pregnant. So Amrula, they told her, right? They told her, Mati Barze, right? What exactly is this child? So he says, from this person, and she's a Kohen. He's a Kohen. Rabban Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer omnim. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Eliezer say, Ne'emenet, she's going to be believed. Okay? Now you understand why it cannot be a grusha. Rabbi Yoshua says, Lo mipi anu chayim. We cannot live according to her testimony. What does that mean? Which means she's believed. And since she's believed, since she's a pnuya, and she says the father's a Kohen, so the child's a Kohen. If she's a grusha and she says the father's a Kohen, the child's a halal. So obviously she wouldn't be believed. She's being also the child, right? But obviously she's a pnuya, and therefore what? That's the Gemara is talking about. The Gemara says the woman says that I had relations and he was a Kohen. So now, if she's a grusha, that's a problem. So obviously she's a pnuya, and so that's what I'm explaining to you, and that's why I told you. So Rabbi Gamliel comes and he says, right, that she's believed. Rabbi Yoshua says we're not going to believe her. Do you know that one time the reason why we said this in the name of Gamliel was to be machshid ba her? Why? And this is another reason why I can't be talking about a grusha, because we want to say that since she had relations with a Kohen, can she still now get married to a Kohen? Yes. No problem whatsoever.
Different Kohen. Different Kohen.
Kohen. Yeah? Thank you. Right? So he says, is she still married to a Kohen? Which one?
A different Kohen. Can she get married to
a Kohen? I don't care. A pnuya, she only becomes psula to the kiuna if she had relations with somebody pasula. Somebody pasula could be a goy, it could be an eved, it could be a natin. Obviously, natin, mamzer, all the other ones, meaning somebody that's pasula. But if it was with a regular guy, she's still kosher, right? One of them is to permit the daughter, meaning if she has a child, this child is also permitted to get married to a Kohen. So, this is good according to the Mandamar. That if you're going to be machshid ba, it's going to be posel b'ita. But if you're going to say according to the Mandamar, right, machshid ba, machshid b'ita, so what is the chidush then? What is he coming to teach you? You already knew this. So answers the Gemara, it's still the chidush of Shaul is better than Gamliel. If it was the case over there in Gamliel, I would have thought to say, Hatam, Rov Ksherim Etzah. Since she's a pruya, the majority of the people are kosher to her. Aval Hecha derov psulim etzah. But what happens if the majority are psulim for her? For example, she's an arusa. So therefore, everybody's pasul to her except for her arus. So therefore, Elmaleh, I would say that she's not believed to say that it came from her arus. Tzricha, and therefore that's why we need the chidush that she's still going to be believed. The Amarava, halacha is going to be like Abba Shaul, which means that she's be'emet believed to say that she had relations with a kasher, even though the majority of the people are pasul to her. Mishnah in Daled Amud Aleph towards the bottom. Anybody that's a sur to come into the kal, they're allowed to get married to each other. And therefore, a mamzer with a shtukit, or both of them are surim level kal, they're allowed to get married to each other. Now, even though a mamzer is for sure yisur vadai, and a shtuki is a safek, right? Doesn't matter. They're permitted. Rabbi Yehuda says no, they cannot get married within each other. Why? Because even though they're not allowed to come to the kahal, but one of them is a mamzer, which is a vadai, and the other one's a doubt. Rabbi Eliezer says vadam v'da'am mutar. If it's a vadai with a vadai, it's going to be mutar for them to get married. Vadam is svekam, but a vadai and a safek. So, for example, whether you're talking about an isure vadai, right? With this, for example, a mamzer or natin with a shtukit or a sufi, utsvekam v'vadayin, or the surim is safek, right, with the vadai. So, for example, shtukit or sufi for a mamzeret of netina, utsvekam b'tzvekan, or a safek with a safek, whether it's a sufi to a shtukit to a sufit, asur. It's going to be asur. The elu hen asvekot. So, what are the only tzvekot? Shtuki, asufi, vekuti. These are the three. Shtuki, asufi, vekuti. Says the Gemara, Michael asurim lavo bekahal. What does it mean now? All the people that are going to be asurim lavo bekahal. Says Ilay mamamzirin tinishtikov vasufi. You're going to tell me now the mamzer natin shtuki vasufi hatan leidesha. We already learned it once, right? Mamzerin natin shtuki vasufi natin lavo zebazeh. They're allowed to get married to each other. The two, and furthermore, Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says that there's going to be a sur. Ahai, what case did Rabbi Yehuda come and he said that it's going to be a sur? If you're going to tell me it's going to be a sur, avadayim b'sfekan, and avadai to the safek, we already said in the Seifa. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, vadam mutar, vadam tzvaken, right, is going to be a sur. Tzvaken is going to be a sur. So mashma Rabbi Yehuda, lo sirle, he doesn't hold this. V'chitem, and now you're going to tell me Rabbi Yehuda oser a gera mamzeret. Maybe you're going to tell me that he says that a ger cannot get married to a mamzeret. So who's talking about gera mamzeret? Do you remember that was machloka between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosef? But who's talking about that? Nobody talking about a ger here in our Mishnah. Midi ger b'mezerah ktani. Kol ha'asurim lavo bikal ktani. So Rav Yehuda comes and he says, "Ayin daled amubet." I told you it's short. Ayin daled amubet 74b says the Gemara. Hachi kamer. This is what it means to say. Kol ha'asurim lavo bikal kehuna. Anybody that's not allowed to come into the kal kehuna. We're not talking about anybody asurim lavo bekahal kal Yisrael. Kahal kehuna. So my nihu, that's going to be a gioret, right? That's a gioret. Chutam mibat shalosh shnim yom echad, right? Like shitat Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He says that a gioret is mutaret kuna if she got converted before 3 years old, right? And that therefore the gerim mamzerim and tirim mutarim levot bezeh. So according to this, it comes out that according to the Tanakama, right? It comes out that the gioret is actually going to be included there because she's asura to get married to a kohen, right? And therefore she's asurim level bikal, right? Because remember when we said here bekal didn't mean klal Israel, it meant kal kohanim. So we know that a gioret, right, is going to be a surah. So therefore, he comes and he says, but therefore, she's going to be permitted to get married to a mamzir, right, and a natin. Benukma. So what do we just say? It's bevat shalosh shanim yom echad, that she's already 3 years old one day. And even according to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, but remember, after 3 years and 1 day, lechule alma, a gioret is a surah lekohen. The reason why is because before 3 and 1 day, even if she did have tashmish, the betulim chuzrim. Afterwards, betulim no chuzrim. So if it's because of that, so after a gerut of 3 in 1 day, I don't care if you do a DNA test or what type of a test that you do, she's still considered, right, a be'ula. And doesn't matter. But even if she's it doesn't matter. So it says the Gemara, if so, right, mitzidat tavra, you're going to break it on the side. Ela tamad vat shalosh yemim echad, but it's going to be 3 years or 1 day. But if it's going to be less than 3 years old 1 day, that she's permitted to go there. They're not allowed to come to each other. If she could get married to a kohen, she could not get married to a mamzer, natin, no. But according to Shimon Bar Yochai, so according to Shimon Bar Yochai, she's permitted to go to get married to the kohen, and therefore she's permitted to get married to each other, right? So says the Gemara, are you going to tell me it's a general rule? Anybody that's assumed to come to kal kuna are permitted to get married to each other. Almana grusha v'chalala v'zuna. Asurim levo bikal kuna, but asurim levo zebzeh. That means, for example, grusha. Can a grusha get married to a regular kohen? No. Can almana, right? Can almana get married to a regular kohen? Yes, but not to a kohen gadol. Right? Can a chalala get married to a kohen? No. Right? A zona, can she get married to a regular kohen? No. So in all these cases, there are asurim levo bikal kuna. So now what? They're allowed to get married to a mamzer? Obviously not. What's going on? Right? So the two, and furthermore, hamutar asur, right? Vare ger shemutar bekohenet, right? Umutar b'mamzeret. What about ger? A ger is mutar to get married to a kohenet, and mutar to get married to a mamzeret. How does it work? Right? Because we just said that it's a mutarim lavo bekal kiuna. So what's going on over here? And that was halakha, if you remember, that a ger has both choices. He could get married to a mamzeret or he could get married to a kohenet. So Elam Rav Natan. Yeah, that's what we just said. Rabbi Yosef. Right? So he says, Elam Rav Natan bar Yoshia, but rather Natan bar Yoshia says, Hachi kamar. This is what it means to say. Kol kohen asur lisad bito. Right? Kol shekohen is asur to get married to his daughter. What is that case? Ger shenasa gioret. A ger that gets married to a gioret. Right? And like the Shita of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, which means that according to him, a bat ger, the gioret, asura lekohen. The daughter of a ger. And a gioret, right? Are not allowed to come, and they're not allowed to what? No, that's what it says here. So says the Gemara, and it's a general rule. The whole kohen asur so if the kohen cannot get married to the daughter, so the mutarim levoz b'zeh. But Hechal, what about Hechal? Shenasa bat Yisrael. Kohen asur sabito, asuri nami levoz b'zeh. A kohen cannot get married to his daughter, but she's a halal, just like her father. But asuri nami levoz b'zeh. But they're not allowed to get married to a team. So says the Gemara, it's a question. This is Shita Rabbi Dostai ben Yehuda that he permitted, if you remember. He said a bat halal from Israelit is mutar to get married to a kohen. Remember that he said that the psul only goes on the boys and not on the girls. So says the Gemara, okay, fine. What about if you have a halal that gets married to a halala? The kohen asuli sabito, so a kohen cannot get married to the daughter. And they're not allowed to get married to mamzerim and everything. The two, and furthermore, hamutar asur vare ger shenasag bat Yisrael. A ger that gets married to a regular bat Yisrael, the kohen mutar sabito. A kohen can get married to the daughter. Mutarin lavoz b'zeh, they're allowed to get married to each other. Right? Yes, but even though the ger is getting married to a bat Yisrael, the kohen can get married to the child. There's no problem. And Rav Nachman of Ravua, but rather Rav Nachman said Ravua, Hacha here b'mamzer me'achoto mamzer meshet ish ikemnau. Here we're talking about that there's a mamzer from the sister or mamzer meshet ish. That's the difference between them. Tanakama holds that afilu mamzer me'achoto, even a mamzer from achoto, which means that if he had relations with his sister, which is karet, and therefore it's going to be a mamnami of a mamzer, Yibida savar meshet ish is a mamzer. Me'achoto is not considered a mamzer, which means that there's one shita, again, there's a machloket, but according to Shita of Yehuda, only from a mitat betin is there a mamzer. But achoto, there's no, what?
אז חזק, אז מה קורה לילד?
No, that's what he's saying, he's not a mamzer. He's not a mamzer.
הוא רגיל, הוא כשר.
No, I wouldn't say,
ההורים דפוקים, אבל הוא כשר.
הוא פגום. There's
אז מה הגזר שלו?
הוא פסול.
לכהונה.
כן,
כל כהונה.
כל כהונה וכל.
אבל הוא ישראלי רגיל.
אבל הוא ישראלי, זאת אומרת, הוא לא ממזר. So my Kamashmalan says, what were you coming to teach us? We already learned too much. Ezu mamzer, kol shur b'lo yavo. These words are Kiva. That means if it says lo yavo, which is a negative commandment, that's already enough. Whether it's karet or bedin, mita bedin. Shimon HaTivni says, kol shchav lo karet b'tei b'dei shamayim, alacha kivrav and alacha zakun. Which means that even though you're not going to be chayav mita bedin, it's still a mamzer. So it comes out that if somebody goes with his sister, it is a mamzer. Rabbi Yehoshua says, kol shechayavim alav mita bedin. It has to be mita bedin. So you come here and you see that this is a three-way machloket. So if we already learned this three-way machloket, so then what's the chidush then by us? And Lamarava, brother Rava comes and he says, "Ger amoni moavi coming out." The difference between them is ger amoni moavi. Vehachi kamer. This is what it means. Kol asurim levo bekal. All the people that are asurim levo bekal. Many who are these people ger amoni moavi. Shemutarim levo zebezeh. They're allowed to get married to each other, which means that ger amoni moavi are allowed to get married to a mamzeret. Right? Exactly. To a mamzeret, but not the kal. Yahachi. If so, what does Rabbi Yehuda say then? Why? So he says, Hachi Kamar, this is what he say. Afa Bishop Yehuda said, even though Rabbi Yehuda says that it's a sur for a ger b'mamzeret, Hanemile ger derevil. That's only a ger that's fitting to come to the kahal. But ger amoni moavid that are not fitting to come to the kahal, it's not a sur, and therefore it's going to be mutan. And it's like ger amoni moavid.
A ger not from these nations.
Exactly. Okay. A regular ger is allowed to. Here they're not allowed to. Taran Rabbanan, we learned in a braita. Ben teisha shanim yom echad, right? A 9-year-old in one day. Ger amoni moavid mitziv yadumi. Kuti v'nati chalil mazer shebau ala kohenet al levia ve'al bat Yisrael pesalua. Remember that relations is only after 9 years old in one day. Meaning, if an 8-year-old has relations with someone, it's not considered relations. Only after 9 years old. So 9 years old in one day, that's considered ra'ui lebiyah, right? And therefore, since it's going to be ra'ui lebiyah, that's when it prohibits. So you have a ger amoni moavim motzim yodomi kuti natin chalil mazer. They had a relation with a kohenet or a Levia or a Bat Yisrael, they contaminate her from becoming married to a Kahuna. Why? Because it was after 9 years old one day. And you'll say, Kol shezero pasul, anybody that the zera is pasul, posel. Kol shezero pasul, eno posel. Right? Or Shimon Gamliel. Yes. And now he comes and he says, Shimon Gamliel says, Kol she'ata noseh bito, ata noseh almanato. Any Kohen, right? Any psul that the Kohen could marry the daughter, so he could get married to the almana as well. Even though he had, she did have relations, whatever it is. If you can't get married to the daughter, so you can't get married to the almana as well. What's the difference? Ma'ika ben Tanakam ben Rabbi Yosef. Rabbi Yochanan says mitzri sheni. The difference is mitzri sheni. Okay, that's going to be the nafkamina. Exactly. Only shlishi is beseder. So therefore, the child is kosher, but the parent not.